Hey, what's going on, guys? Nate and Phillip back again. Episode, what is this, 31?
31.
I have to ask every time.
Chugging them along. Yeah, sometimes I have to look each time before I make a post because I can't keep track. Like, wait, are we on 31? Are we on 30? Was that last time?
Yeah, I think 30 was last time, but...
Yeah. That's how I do, is I look at previous posts, but...
Yeah, what's going on? Hope you guys are doing all right. Getting springtime here where we're at, getting a little warmer. And yeah, this episode is another era episode, but it's a little different. So if it's your first time listening or you skipped a couple, we do these era episodes where we started back all the way back to the OG sets, and we're doing a episode dedicated to each era. But now that gets a little gray because some people consider, the first era as WOTC era, and that is in itself one era, but we're going beyond that. We're kind of chunking it up. So we're doing like an OG era, the gym set era, and stuff like that. The e-reader era and all that stuff. So this one is kind of the last episode of WOTC, because last one we talked about Expedition, Aquapolis, and Skyridge. So some amazing sets there for sure.
Yeah, this one is basically just covering the odds and ends and a lot of miscellaneous stuff in this set. And what's funny is it still barely scratches at the surface of what else there is, because this doesn't even discuss the Japanese cards released before the Pokemon cards even debuted in the English language. There's 4 years of cards technically, I think, before that. And then there's the Topps card, which is its own thing,
Yeah, the way I see it for the Japanese side, there is a lot for these era episodes. So in general, the way I see it is, we're just doing these era episodes as like a catch up, and then maybe we'll go back and, well, I say maybe, but I mean, it's pretty safe to say we'll go back and cover Japanese promos and unique things. And I feel like those will be, kind of branched up too, as in like trophy cards, maybe an episode about trophy cards, maybe an episode about vending series. We can break that up in many ways as well.
Card ass,
Yeah.
Bandai. I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's the original illustration cards that led to the eventual vending series. There's so much.
Yep. So all that will probably be another 5 episodes in itself, but
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I figure with those we'll just do pre-WOTC Japanese cards, part 1, part 2, part 3, or something like that. Because or I don't know, but that one's, I figure I kind of save the best for last, because I think those are the most fun, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it would have to be I don't know, it's hard to say. It would have to be either 5+ episodes or really watered down versions, because there's so many. But we'll get there when we get there.
I will say, as far as what's going with me, I did splurge a little bit. I bought Pokemon cards too. Okay, I splurged, but I also bought some Pokemon cards. I know I've been mentioning for a while that I've meant to just check out the local store and just see what cheap singles they had, and of course there was a few cards there. I got my Japanese Blanche from Pokemon GO, a few Radiant rares, some illustration rares, both Japanese and English Spiritomb, and a few other rares, and they were all cheap. I got all these cards for $25. What nice. The Spiritomb illustration rare was $1. $1. And that's one of the better ones in my opinion. I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. People talking about songs, people talking about, invest bro, diamond hands. This is where it's most fun. You can enjoy the hobby for the cheap, get great art on your cards, and still collect. still collect Ultra Modern, some of the best Ultra Modern, like the illustration rares. I know the alt arts are like the crown jewel of that era, but illustration rares are still just as incredible and fun to collect.
Yeah, I got a pretty sick thing in the mail. It's the E4 forum signature exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, a lot of people signed up. I think it was like 36 of us. So every single person bought like 40 cards. You could buy all the same card or 40 different cards or 40 cards you had laying around, whatever you want. And then you sign them. And then we sent them all to one person. He divvied them up. And then it was a couple people. It was Slade and PFM, Pokemon Flying Master, from E4. So shout out to those guys. They did a lot of work for that. But they essentially took all the cards, divvied them up into piles, and sent them back out to the participants. And so each one of us got a signed card from every single person on the E4 signature exchange. So it was pretty cool. It's nothing special, nothing crazy like crazy cards, but it was cool just seeing everyone's signature and just kind of a fun thing to do. So that's the only exciting thing I've done. And I've bought a little binder to put them in, and the cards look amazing, like in the binder with everyone's signature. Yeah, it's just a little cool thing to do. So now I want to like fill up that binder with like signatures, like anybody that I meet, that I do a deal with, or that I talk to. I might have a card in there for them to sign. If it's anybody like famous or stuff like that, I'll have like a special holo card for them to sign or something. It's just a little cool thing as like a memento. Just nothing really special, but kind of has some sentimental value.
Yeah, and the big splurge I did, I showed you. I haven't posted it on my Instagram. I've been meaning to. I'll probably do that after we record this episode today. But I bought my very first graded comic, Nathan.
Nice.
Yeah, and I've never submitted comics to CGC. I think I would have a couple that would score 9.6 or 9.8, which is for modern basic. First off, collecting comics is kind of niche. I like doing collecting things just for the documentation aspect and preservation, and obviously I collect the hard copy of a lot of comics, and like when I begin a series and I find out I love it immediately, it's very difficult for me nowadays not to splurge and buy the individual issues and have those from my collector standpoint. But I bought Flashpoint issue #1. And now Flashpoint is obviously going to be the inspiration for the next Flash movie that's coming out. But Flashpoint in the DC universe is pretty big because it's basically the beginning of ultra modern DC universe comics. It like reset the multiverse more or less, and just it was basically began to where we are today with the DC universe. And I absolutely love it. I've been looking at this for almost 3 years since I first heard about the Flash movie. So I'm excited. Like I've been literally keeping. I know. Like I've been keeping track of like that card, just like kind of seeing the price now since like 2020. It's like, do I do it? Do I do it? Do I do it? And the moment the Flash first preview came out, it jumped like 40% to like almost 500.
Yeah.
But it went down since then because people are unsure about the movie, as you can imagine, which makes sense. But I got it for basically 300 ships. That includes sales tax. So I got a hell of a deal on it. It was cheaper than when I first started looking at it. Well, it might have been like 250 or 300 back then. But, inflation has gone up about, 8.2% here in America. So, I mean, it's about where it was originally when I started looking at it. So I'm happy. I can't wait. I can't wait to eventually begin reading the whole Flashpoint story because there's like 64 comics involved. I've only ever read 5 of the issues. So eventually I'm getting to that, but currently I'm reading the beginning of Dark Crisis with the multiversity and all that. So
yeah, I always love the look of graded comics, and I had a small comic collection when I was growing up because one of the biggest card stores that I went to for all my cards were a comic store first and foremost. So it was always cool going in there, picking up like a comic that was worth anywhere from $1 to $5 just because it looked cool. GI Joe was my main thing because
I actually, yes, sorry.
I was just gonna say my brother was into it, so we always did the GI Joe thing. But
see, I've never been into the GI Joe, but I somehow have acquired GI Joe comics, like comic stories. If you ever want those, please take them off my hands. I'll probably never read them. I have no idea how I got them. There's a lot of comics like that. I think what it was it might have been. Shit, I really have no idea how I got these books, dude.
Are they like the old school ones, or?
No, that's one from the 80s, I don't think. I think it's more like early 2000s, but like there's a bunch of these books that like there's even some like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, I love the show, but I never cared for the comics. And there's these bunch of other comics, I like these Invincible comics, which I have somehow 4 of the omnibuses that I never bought. I have no clue how I came across these. This was during my drinking days, so I mean, it could have been an impulse buy, but I never would have bought GI Joe because I've never had any interest in it. So somehow I got these comics, and I have no idea how. But
yeah, I mean, if they're the 2000 ones, like I played and bought like the action figures a lot around that time.
Well,
they kind of had a
Civil War.
I'm not sure about that one then. There was a time in the 2000s. I think it was Valor versus Venom is what they called like the toys. And
2012 for this story.
That's probably a little past that then.
But there's a few. I mean, I'm not sure how I came across these. I think it was somewhere like somebody was about to throw away comics, and me not, still being drinking and just was trying to collect comics even back then, off and on. But recently I've hit it harder, obviously, because I finally learned more information about studying how to come across, where things are with the DC universe, all that. Anyways, I just kind of, any chance I could get, I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take them. I think it was just some of those early about to throw them away. I somehow came across, and I ended up getting like this whole Tupperware container full of comics.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to check them out sometime. I really don't like collect them, and even the ones I had back then, I pretty much only kept a very small handful of like the ones I thought were cool. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. I used to collect a lot of things, but over the years, my like minimalism and all these cycles that I've talked about where I sell things, I've pretty much just narrowed it down to Pokemon only. Just narrow my focus and put my money into that or save my money or something.
Yeah, that's cool. With the DC or with the comics, I've learned now, or I've had the DC Infinite Universe subscription. So now going forward, I only buy issues of the stories that are very imperative to the overall core storyline of the DC Universe, which is pretty much what I've been buying recently, or stories I absolutely love and I have to have the hard copy of. Those are the only sets I'm buying going forward because I'm already foreseeing a potential issue years down the line where I'm going to have, if I don't do that, literally a room full of boxes of comics. It's not it's still pretty small for the most part of core stories, so it's okay, but it's something that I have to think about going forward because a lot of these stories I'm not going to want to sell necessarily, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Even if I do try to...
That's a nightmare for me, having a whole...
Well, that's why I've already, I'm seeing the writing on the wall, and I'm being careful now because I'm seeing what some of the used comics for certain stories go for. And I mean, say if there's 8 comics, you bought $40 or whatever. Obviously, you're not getting your money back, which is fine. But like, you might not even get like $20.
Yeah.
20, after shipping and sending it off. So it's like, I might as well keep it for those prices. Shit.
Yeah, anyways, in my experience seeing those, I mean, yeah, you'd be buying a like a comic worth, however much they are nowadays, few bucks, and then
it's only the
not getting much money back at all.
It's only the big stories that really maintain their value, and that's kind of obviously the core stories, including Grant Morrison's Multiversity, which literally goes back the last 30 years of DC Comics and also maps the entire multiverses and introduces you to 45 of the 52 known worlds, and it like gives you a description of each world, which is fascinating, absolutely incredible. And Earth 26, I can't wait for you. That's the cartoon Earth world. I can't wait till they do something with that. But anyways, we should probably get back onto the news part of our podcast. Most people aren't here to listen for DC. Me just gush about the DC universe. I can go on for a while.
And speaking of Pokemon again, like with that stuff, it just goes to show like how little Pokemon still does. I mean, why is there not like a huge mainline series of Pokemon comics that, you know,
there's like manga, but
the opportunity was there to like translate or convert the manga into comics, so the Western world could kind of get the same feel, because like, you know, comics were the thing over here. So it's just so weird. Like, why don't they capitalize on that stuff, or why didn't they do that stuff? I know they've had some like magazine type, comic type things aside from the manga, but you know, over in Japan. But it's just, I don't know, it's just so weird.
Well, you know, you say that, and it's funny because DC is trying to gain a footing in the Japanese world. They obviously, you know, Batman and Superman, they're big all over the world. You know, the Justice League, they're big and known all over the world. There's fans all over the world. But they're trying to gain a new audience, and they're actually making manga. They're gonna like they're starting with 3 stories. One is about the Joker, one is about Batman. I forget. I think the other one's about Superman or something like that. And they're gonna be in manga, and it's more catered to the Japanese audience to try to gain more viewers. But they've made some like alterations that make sense culturally, and they're obviously, I'm pretty sure they're still going to be like English, like Westerners, but it's more from a Japanese lens. And I think that's really, really interesting because they're trying to expand and gain their popularity, because you know how certain like animes, like, you know, One Piece, Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, you know, they're all so huge around the world, and they're huge in Western culture. They are. And obviously DC's huge. Just look at their numbers when it comes to their movies. And, you know, Marvel too, obviously, but, you know, billion-dollar movies. That there's obviously a huge audience that wants this and craves this material. And, you know, this is where Pokemon, as you mentioned, they could kind of make it to where, I'm not saying like DC's Black Label where it's mature audiences, you know, there's people dying left and right, you know, I'm not saying that, but they can make a teen comic. A comic that's teen for junior audiences that can have more than just cater towards 7-year-olds, where it can have viewers that want to know more about the world, want to learn and understand it. They could be able to reach another audience, because not everybody plays games. Not everybody wants to play the games and learn the lore. You could literally make comics about that. Because right now they only have comics or the manga regarding the show. And do people really even read it? I mean, I'm sure people in Japanese do, but I don't know anybody that reads Pokemon manga. Do you? Because it's aimed towards kids.
Yeah, and that's the problem, right? It's like everything's geared towards kids, which is cool. Like, that's their thing. But
it was a kid show. We get it. But
it's like, yeah, you can expand. Like, everybody loves Pokemon, and they've acknowledged that it's for everybody now. So, like, why not make, you know, you don't have to make mature rated things. Just make, like, you don't even have to make, you know, things that aren't PG. Just make it a little more in depth. Like, we've had this talk about the video games. I mean, look at what Hogwarts Legacy has done to Harry Potter. That game was amazing, and people loved it, and people, like, were all in on that game. If there was a Pokemon game like that, that would be insane. But,
well, I think a comparable for, like, audiences is, like, for example, Avatar, like the Last Airbender. Like, so that show was obviously, like, aimed towards 7-year-olds, but you know what? They handled themes, like potentially mature themes, in a way that kids could understand, and it would still maintain its TVY7 rating, but it had a bunch of wisdom in the show. It had all these great things, great elements. Even towards the end, it even started having great fight scenes because they had more money to be able to create those things. And yet you have Pokemon so unwilling to do that because they're fixated on, like, their main focus. I mean, you can have promos in these sort of comics to make people buy it. Like, hey, here, get this promo. It's going to be in this comic. Buy it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, they used to do like, which we'll talk about actually in this episode, the magazine promos, but like
Yeah, Game Boy,
that's what
Nintendo.
kids had, back then is like Beckett trading card game magazine and stuff like that, Top Deck magazine. Yeah, I don't know. It was just really weird. But
Yeah.
wish we had more.
Yep.
So I guess that's a little discussion ahead of the news there. Always
Well, there's
talking
not a
about
whole lot of
Pokemon.
news, so
Yeah, always talking about Pokemon problems.
no
But
more problems.
yeah, the for the news, not much again. I can't tell if it's not much news or if people are less invested in the Scarlet and Violet. We are seeing a little cool down, I think, of modern, but it's like, is a lot of that due to, Scarlet and Violet lacking, or are people finally done messing with that stuff, or, what's going on? And I think it's a little bit of both. Our news example for today, I wrote down that the summer Pokemon set coming out in Japan called Raging Surf. One of the biggest bits of
Ooh.
news for that is that it's going to feature Golden Go EX. And makes sense because he's like, the surfer dude. But there's a little more to that. And I just want to talk about, it looks like it's going to be a cool set and all. There's plenty of water Pokemon in Paldea region. But I feel like Golden Go is getting special treatments. He's kind of going the path of Meltan, but he's actually cooler. Remember like Meltan when it came out, he had like a little feature in Pokemon Go. And then, yeah, he became like this mythical Pokemon. And we're kind of seeing the same thing with Golden Ghoul in Pokemon Go. You can send a postcard to Scarlet and Violet and get a box similar to Meltan box in Pokemon Go to get Golden Ghoul. And then you have to get a golden lure on the 5th day that you send things to get coins, and then use the coins to evolve them into Golden Go. In the games, you have to do like this huge scavenger hunt collecting coins to evolve them and stuff like that. So definitely lots of featuring going on with Golden Go. And, it is a pretty cool Pokemon. It's definitely unique. It's Pokemon number 1000. You need 999 coins to evolve him, and 999 is the number of golden Gimme Ghoul, rather. So they're proud of this one. Well, we'll give them that. They're proud of their, I guess them coming up with that whole idea, and they're showing for it, which is pretty nice. It's cool to see a featured Pokemon that's not just the starters, but yeah. What do you think? I was gonna ask you if do you see this as a promo type situation, or
I
are
think
you
they've
in on the
mainly
hype?
seen immediately how much the social media and bubbles with the Pokemon communities, how favorable it was towards this Pokemon, because he's kind of derpy, he's kind of a meme, and obviously because of that, people immediately loved it. And I think they're kind of running with that initial reaction that its base had, and I think they're really capitalizing on it because of that.
Yeah.
And now because they've seen how much people enjoy it, they're obviously making it. It's going to be a big featurette in this upcoming set, and with Raging Surf, it's probably going to have pack art. It's probably going to have an illustration rare. It's going to have a bunch of cards, I'm sure. So it's going to probably have an SAR, like everything. And I think it's cool. I think it's a cool looking Pokemon. It's all gold, and whatever it is, humans like shiny things, and obviously gold is really, really shiny.
Yeah.
Clean gold, I'll say. But yeah. So I mean, it makes sense to me. I'm still waiting for the more of the 151 set to be dropped, and considering it's coming out in June, I think like mid to late June or something like that, we should be seeing probably not this episode, but I would think we would see something by the next episode potentially. But it's going to be a slow leak, I'm sure too. So who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, and that Raging Surf I think is coming out in May in Japan. So the next set to like have some leaks will be that one, or it should be.
Well,
So
we've already have seen some cards, so and it never fails that a set like that gets leaks hella early.
yeah,
Like I think they end up doing that with like the Umbreon, like the Altar Umbreon ended up getting leaked hella early, for example, before EV Heroes came out.
yeah. But yeah, it's cool to see. I myself haven't even bought like a Scarlet and Violet pack. I think the
Nope.
leaks and all that is kind of really hurting
Kills
them.
it. Yep.
Yeah, it's like
Because if you don't like the set, why buy? There's
mm,
no mystery to it.
yeah, and that's the thing for me. It's like I want to open something new and like that, but it's like I don't know. The spoilers, all I see, it's impossible not to see that on Instagram. You have to see it pretty much. It's just I don't know, not for me, just opening modern in general. But
I haven't bought since V-Star Universe in December, and I don't think I'm going to buy until set 151. Like I'm sure I'm buying some of that set because let's be honest, it's going to have some amazing art rares, illustration rares. It's going to have some cool stuff. So I'll
yeah.
buy a little bit of that.
Yeah, it'll have some cool things for sure. I just don't know what it would take for me to buy any. I'm sure
Set
I'd like,
151. I'm sure
yeah,
you'll buy it.
yeah, I'll
He'll have a, he'll
buy.
have a, he'll have a Charizard, and you'll be like, okay, I'll buy it. I'll get some for the Charizard.
It's like, all right, I guess I'll try.
Yeah, okay. But no, I'm more. But part of it for me, and I'm sure you too. It's like once you kind of immerse yourself enough of the hobby and some of the cards out there, and you got like a full spectrum of all the cards that they've printed. There's cards that, for example, there were cards that apparently one of the former CEOs of Pokemon, they printed primes of his dogs,
Yeah,
like cards like that. Like they were cool cards, but they're probably literally one or two, like single digits of the amount of cards they probably made for those. So you just kind of have an idea of like once you kind of know what's out there, you can really focus your goals. And when you realize how cheap you can get these art rares, like again, like I just said, $1 for an English art illustration rare. The Japanese, a little more expensive, it was like four, but still, it's cheap. Like that's one pack. That's the cost of a pack. You get that, and like just kind of feed, like be able to feed that beast once you want to participate in the hobby. That's how I satiate myself while keeping my true goals focused. And once you kind of get to that point and you're able to kind of control your spending a little bit within the hobby, you kind of start to realize a lot of these sets come and go, but what stays? What's going to be the defining features? We haven't seen that so far of this era just yet.
yeah, yep. It's I don't know what it could be either. I mean, they do have some great Pokemon. I think the Pokemon look really good. I just don't know what it would take, but in general, I've just been burnt out, like with everything. Haven't been posting as much on my Instagram, stuff like that. The stuff I have been doing, I've mostly have just wanted to, do the private thing, the whole buying and selling, and just not worry about making videos and all that. So yeah, I don't know what else I'll be doing, but we'll see. I think I'm just basically just waiting for a Collecticon because I think that'll really spark me back up again. But
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
know.
gonna say, yeah.
Oh, I was just saying I don't know if it will or not, but I still got some stuff to sell, so we'll see.
By the time I get there, I'll have sold most of my crap, which should be fun because I won't have to worry about haggling and like I'm at the point where it's just going to be a couple $100 worth at most. So, I've sold a lot more than I thought I would in this time frame. It's slowly but surely. So
yeah,
maybe we'll have something for then. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see.
But I think the only other bit of news I had was there's a Pokemon Horizons, the series, which aired in Japan. And they did get some looks at what appears to be a new Pokemon. They did leak, on Pokemon Day, I think it was, a couple of what we can assume are legendaries for Scarlet and Violet's DLC. So this one almost looks like it's a pre-evolution of a turtle. And one of those legendaries was a turtle that they revealed that day. So this one is like a little turtle who's interacting with one of the new protagonists. So it's interesting to see that. I don't know how I feel about, all the DLC and stuff, just to get the new Pokemon. We're going to have to do DLC and all that. So it's unfortunate. That's the way games are nowadays. Can't even make a good game unless you're doing like a battle pass and all this BS that goes along with it. So that's just the way they are nowadays.
It's everything, unfortunately, these days. Like, it's like gym equipment or exercise equipment, especially like the top dollar ones. Oh, you're going to buy our top dollar machine, and guess what? Because since you can afford these machines, we're also going to require you to pay a subscription service to continue using it, just so you can use it. Yeah. I mean, it's like a straight gimmick. It's like, how do we increase revenue? It's like, okay, let's make a subscription service, and then we'll start increasing money on that. Blah blah blah. It's like bleeding people dry. But
yeah,
I would say the only thing that I could really think of was like they released some cards, and obviously the top one is the Iono card, $1,600 in Japanese from what was it, Clayburst? No, yeah, Clayburst. I mean, the card is pretty cool, and I'm sure the pull rate's equivalent of that value, but we all know why it's going that much, don't we, Nathan? I think we do.
I think we do.
We discussed it last episode.
Get that waifu collectors.
Get that 16-year-old on a card, yeah. But I mean, it is a cool card. The artwork is pretty cool. I will say that. Like, it's pretty intricate. You got like this Pikachu thing on it, it's Eevee thing. I mean, it is a cool looking card. I will say the artwork's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But is it $1,600 cool? Hell no, it's not.
Yeah, it's weird. That's the thing. I don't do modern because I just think that's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the pull rate's that rare. There's the Umbreon that's expensive too.
Yeah, I haven't even seen that one. I don't think
the Japanese one. You've seen it. It's got more texture to it. The Japanese alt-art Umbreon VMAX,
like Evolving Skies, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Eevee Heroes.
Eevee Heroes, yeah. That was hard to pull. That's why it was more expensive, but yeah.
But yeah, I guess it's pretty much all we got for the news section. We can hop on into the old main topic. This will probably be a short one, we're assuming. Because, there isn't much here. So we're talking about the odds and ends, which are pretty much just the Black Star promos, the best of game promos. There's some W Wizard stamp promos, and then Southern Islands. And that's pretty much the juice of the entire topic. There really isn't much in between. A lot of stuff was already happening on the Japanese side. Like we mentioned, there's a whole sea of Japanese promos that the English did not get, and many more before Pokemon even came over here. So, yeah, we'll do that in future episodes and break that up a little bit. But as far as the English side, things were still taking off. It was in a hype, and there was quite the range of promos still, but yeah, just not nearly as much. But I guess we should probably start with the Black Star promos, right? Because that's what everyone thinks of. Everybody had some of these. Even Ancient Mew, that's technically a Black Star promo. And this is the biggest group of them all. I mean, these were iconic. And it seems like everybody had these. How many did you have? Let's kind of talk about ones that are nostalgic to us, I guess, and talk about how they or where you could get them.
Yeah, I didn't. So I don't have all of these. I do have the plurality of these. There are a couple very expensive ones in these promos. We'll get to those eventually. I have the majority of these. I'm missing a handful of ones, but that's because since these were all promos, it's kind of lower on my desire list to get. I'll probably get them at the end of the year when I sell some of my Lorcana cards. But I have almost all of these. I mean, I think the main ones I'm missing are the Pokemon Center and Lucky Stadium because those are several $100s a piece. And I'm missing the e-reader era ones, like the Suicune. Actually, I might have the Suicune. The Ho-Oh. But yeah, I do have the majority of these. Obviously, I got a lot of them from, like, you might remember from the Game Boy or Nintendo Power magazine.
Yeah. There's a lot of them came from magazines, I feel like. Which, we're not going to go through every card and exactly how you got it.
That'd be way too boring and long.
Yeah, even on PokeLector, if you click on the card, it tells you like a little one-liner of information.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, the Mew promo that everyone had says Pokemon League, January 2000. I never really participated in the Pokemon League at all or have really known anybody to. I just think there was just so much of this card that just everybody had one. Because even to this day, you can find like bricks of these things unopened where it's like 1,000 to each brick or something like that. So just as with base set, as with everything else, just the insane overabundance of cards were a thing. So pretty much with everything, promos and everything. But yeah, pretty much the only two that are worth anything really sticking out are the ones you said, Pokemon Center and Lucky Stadium. Those were given out to the New York Pokemon Center opening. I think you had to be there and buy a certain amount of products. So yeah, there was a decent amount of them. They're not like insanely expensive, but they are much more expensive than most of these.
I think they're like $400 or $500 a piece, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I haven't looked at them in a long time, but they were 100, 200 pretty commonly, I feel like.
Pokemon Center says, what is this? It says almost 500 on TCG Player. It's probably near mint, though. No, it's moderately played, so they've taken a jump.
Yeah.
Near mint 600. Near mint 600. So they have definitely increased, and I don't know what they are in a 9 or a 10 or something like that.
So they've pretty much maintained through the hype. Before the hype, they were definitely $100 to $200, I think. So they're still doing well. A lot of people love this set. I never really cared to collect this whole set for some reason. I don't know. The cards are cool. Some of them are really cool. I really like the Mewtwo, designed by Christopher Rush, who is the designer and creator of Magic the Gathering. That's the only card he illustrated for Pokemon. So it's really a kind of a weird, odd and in thing, but really cool. But yeah, I just never really collected these for some reason. I've never had a complete set. I've had many of these cards come to my collection and then go out of my collection. Multiple Ancient Mews. The one I remember most as a kid is the Entei Reverse Hollow. That was the movie promo for the third movie. And just always thought that card was really cool. And Yeah, the other ones that point out to me, the three legendary birds. I mean, everybody had those.
From the movie, yeah.
Yeah, that was a movie for the second movie promo.
And Tay, obviously, the reverse hollow from the third movie.
Yeah,
I think the Pichu came in that one too. Yeah, I think they were a pair in that one.
I think that
Yeah,
was
I am
a
missing
league
it more than I
promo.
anticipated, though. I'm missing more than I thought. Well, there's cards. Oh, I think I got those graded. I think is why is where. So yeah, I got some that are in my binder, and then other ones. That's right. So I had a lot of these that are in my graded stash because they were my OG collection. So I almost need to rebuy a lot of these cards because of that.
Yeah,
Because I'm looking at like I know I got this one, like, but it's not in my binder because I went ahead and pulled up my binder, and it's like the Mews, for example. I have those. The Mewtwo. You were trying to hide that for me. I remember both the Mewtwo, all three of them, 3, 12, and 14. Um, I have all those graded. I have the Pikachu graded. Like, I have quite a few. I think really, I would have to like really, really count how much I'm missing, but it's not much. It's like, so what is there? 54 of these. I'm probably missing something like 15.
yeah,
I actually got quite a bit during the KC Con, which one of them includes the W War Turtle and the Dark Ivysaur winner from the Best of Game series that we bought or that I bought during the KC Con. Like, it was really a good price. I don't remember what it was, but like that's what's so fun about those conventions is how you can just like, oh, I'm missing this card, and that card, But I might take my binder with me, or
just
or
see.
something. Yeah, like I made a detailed list of like every like Neo card I was missing, and there's a few from, and I think there's like two cards from Team Rocket that I'm missing, but like I don't think I made a list yet of the promos. I might do that before we go to KCCon because I'm sure I'm going to find some of these because a lot of these
Yeah,
are that common, and it is fun. This is what we're talking about though. Like great cards from our childhood, and like the Ho-Oh, for example, the from the e-reader set is only $12, and that's online. I bet you can probably find that for like $10 or something in person.
yeah,
No, well, yeah, yeah, it's damaged for $3 near mint 16. I bet you can find that for $10 or buy a bunch of stuff, pay cash, you can get it for $10. But that's what I'm saying. You can get great cards, awesome cards for cheap. So
yeah. It'll be fun. I need to get my list together of E series hollows because I think eventually
ooh, you're gonna just do
I
it.
eventually I think I will go for that because I mean my binder sets are pretty much done. Um,
Yeah.
so it'll be like a fun hobby goal when I'm at conventions, which I guess right now I don't have any of them, so I can just buy whichever ones I see. But
Without, so you don't even have to make a list.
yeah, so yeah,
But
we'll try it out and we'll do something with that. But
yeah, and then there's obviously the greatest card ever made. Also, lest we forget, Ancient Mew. So
yeah, the old ancient muse in there for sure.
yeah, that's that's pretty good. And then another big one is the Machamp, which was the English version of the Misaki Machamp. The old ones where you could send it in the mail. They'd send you back ones on these cards with these on these card sleeves, and you peel them off.
Yeah, yeah,
So
those
I
were
got that one. Yeah, I have that one. I got that one from Yeti near mint. It's like PSA 7, and it doesn't have the Misaki marks. Probably is what I think it is. So it's great looking. Like I'm pretty pleased with that. And I have the English version, but I thought I was looking at it, but it's not. Yeah, the Japanese version's in my case is what it is.
yeah,
But
yeah, it's pretty cool. They They really hit the nail on the head with some of these promos are some of the most iconic cards. They're definitely a nostalgia trip because everybody had them. But yeah,
Lucky Stadium's.
it
I'm gonna say.
worked.
Well, I'm gonna say so. Lucky Stadium has actually gone through the roof the last couple of years. It looks like. So is that the one with Pokemon Center? No, that was the Pokemon Center release. Let me see. Okay, yeah. Oh, they were both. No, they both were. Okay, that's right.
Yeah, yeah, they
So they
both
were,
were releases for Pokemon Center.
yeah, in New York, which closed down after only a few years. And I remember there was on Poke Radar, I think it was, in his podcast. He had a episode about a woman who collected a bunch of that stuff. She had, what was it that she had? It was a big. Was it? Do you remember the episode I'm talking about?
Um,
It
there
was
was
some
a
sort of
bunch
thing.
of products. There was like a guitar.
But there was something that was at the New York Pokemon Center that she bought, and it was like, I don't want to say like it was a gumball machine or like like it was a some sort of kiosk or something.
Hmm.
I don't know. It was pretty cool that she had it because it's kind of a like she's it's the only one that there is, and it's kind of cool. It's apparently like especially that time for Pokemon in its history.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what it is too. I mean, there was a giant Pikachu that was like
Yeah, I remember
in
that.
the shop, but
Yeah.
yeah, I can't remember exactly. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of things. There's some pretty cool stuff. And just random, like, promotional products. Like, who knows what they had there at the grand opening. It's so hard to, like, find that stuff online now.
Well, a
But,
lot of it's in collectors' hands, is what it is, and you won't see it ever. You won't see it come to market, but randomly.
yeah.
That's pretty much what it is. Like like you just once like there's as years go by, especially stuff from this era, especially some of the more niche cards. It's going to be one of those things where they're going to be scooped up by collectors, and you've seen. I'm sure you've probably seen a news article here or there. Like there was one like a year or two ago, like 90-year-old surgeon passed away, and he had in his hands the only one in existence of this Babe Ruth card in this condition or something like that. Like several $1 million collection that people didn't even know were in such good condition still. He had
Yeah.
some of them graded, some of them ungraded, and it's like stuff like that. There's going to be a lot of stuff like that where this person just takes to the grave with them, and then the family will have to try selling it.
Yeah, for sure.
But
who knows what stuff's out there, too? I mean, there's illustrators that are still missing. And
yeah, unaccounted for, there's like 41, and I think they only know about there's only accounted for like 27 or something like that. It's something along those numbers.
yeah, and like another thing that you mentioned already, like just random one-off in-house cards, like that
Yeah.
dude's dogs as prime cards. Like
And that
those
was
were,
just discovered. Like
yeah,
in the
those
last
were
2
not
months.
known about for such a long time, and then all of a sudden here they are, and it's like, yeah, the company made these cards just for him, and then his dogs are on them. It's like, okay. And there are many cards like that, some which we know about. Know the Ishihara GX that was given out at his 60th birthday party.
The
That,
prototype Chansey.
yeah, prototype Chansey's out there.
Well, it's probably in the vaults of Pokemon, but stuff like that Pokemon has on their own. They could legit have a museum with all that stuff.
Yeah, like nobody knew that was a thing, and then all of a sudden they made that, Monsters celebration set.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, like they're acknowledging this was a thing. So Chansey was the OG card or what? Like that card exists somewhere. The real one. Like that's not just the promo card. But yeah, I would just think of all the stuff like at Pokemon headquarters. Like just in their card catalog. Just the amount of crazy stuff that has to be in there. Even if it's like employee scribbles, like just one of those things, if it could be documented as like a real like test or prototype thing,
6-figure card.
how much money that would be. Potentially one of one cards.
Yeah.
Unless they have like destroyed them. Like
They could do that too, but I feel like they would want to preserve their history, so it would be. I would think a lot of this they have some sort of vault or something.
unless they like photo documented them and like, you know, done it that way. So now they have the images archived and stuff like that. Like they have per se a museum, but to ensure nothing like that happens, like they've been destroyed. But I don't know. It's who knows what they've done or haven't done or what they have or don't have. Maybe they don't keep a card at all. You know, they don't care. It's just about making a fun game that people love for the kids. And then they burn all the rest. There was a dude recently, this just reminds me, I just saw a video and kind of a discussion about this dude who worked at one of the printing companies and essentially has like got an entire stack of like secret rare cards. And you just see on the table like an insane stack of these cards, and then he tried to like sell them, of course. So, idiot. But it's basically like just the amount of action like Pokemon would take against someone like that is kind of scary to think about.
Well, and make sure if you do that, one, you're not an employee with him anymore. If you're going to try to sell something, like keep it, like, you know, like you kind of brought this up, but we mentioned before, you know, I know I mentioned before, it's like, you know, the 2009 illustration contest, the 2009 or the 2010 illustration contest was Aurora, 2009 illustration contest with Arceus. The cards that are on the market, at least with the 2009 illustration cards, they're pretty much ones that never left the printing, or they only left the printing room in somebody's hands that was in that room, if that makes sense. Like one of the guys that made, or that, you know, bought the set, a set of 10, the PSA set of 10 of all these Arceus illustration cards, he pretty much, the guy that he bought from was like, yeah, he was at a military base or something like that, and he bought it from an adult man. And this was like 10 years ago or something like that. So clearly it was not a kid, because these kids were no older than 6th grade, so 11, you know. He
went to Area 51, got access.
And somehow came back with these cards. Yeah. But anyways, what I'm saying is, it's like, this has been a thing for Pokemon for a long time. And especially some rare cards like the 09 illustration cards, like the ones that are on the market, people are very confident it's from the ones that never went to the hands of the kids, that were taken out of the room, of the printing room that they printed these cards in, and that's how they acquired these cards. And they weren't stupid. Like this guy, he might even still work for this place. He sold it in a private sale. Didn't show off on social media about it. Who knows if he still works there or not? But I mean, you know, who knows what they paid for? But there's a lot of that where it happens to this day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. It's kind of like the situation that happened with the Gold Star dogs. Like, there was a bunch of those. Someone, like, uploaded a video where he had, like, an entire 3-ring binder stacked full of the 9x9, or 3x9, or 3x3, 9 per pages. And, yeah, all Gold Star dogs. It's like, okay, I'm not trying to get anybody ideas here, but it's like, if you had that, why would you, like, why? The purpose of doing that is to, like, make money, and, you know, you're very ill-willed and trying to tarnish the brand or take advantage of something, whether you got access to these cards, you know, pretty sure illegally or whatever you had to do to get them. It's like, what's the overall goal? You're trying to make money, probably, right? So why are these people so stupid when they get these amount of cards? It's like, why not sell one card every month for like the rest of your life? Sure.
Well,
it's like, you got these cards for free somehow. You're obviously gloating about them. What's the rush to get the money?
Well, and those gold stars are some of the cheaper ones too. The Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. There's some of the more cheaper gold stars because those were printed more.
Well, that
I'm not
is
sure if they're printing
actually
more,
the
but
one of the main reasons why. It's because of that video. Like,
yeah,
this was when I was just starting to collect again. This was a long time ago, and gold stars were, already expensive. They were considered pretty rare pretty early on. And this video was around probably early 2010s. And that was the main reason why. They've gained traction since then, because I don't know if people, just forget, or it's been enough time to pass, but this was in a time where pretty much on eBay there's only, I don't know, there were less than 50 of each gold star on there. This was relatively early on, and they were definitely scarce already. But yeah, all of a sudden this guy uploads that video, and there's a ton of them. But yeah, that was one of the main reasons why it was so cheap for a while. And so over the years, I guess, as the other ones went up, they've went up too, just not as much because they started out lower because of that whole situation. But it's a weird situation. Faux
I
show.
think that's the majority of the ones then, right? For the most notable ones to discuss. There's like the Snap Pikachu. That's supposed to be kind of like the legendary Snap cards. Pikachu 26. But
Yeah, that's pretty much the main Black Star promos, and we went on for a little bit, so can move on to the next section if you want. That's just the main section. Everyone knows, those iconic cards. I mean, Birthday Pikachu. There's not much we can say that you haven't heard about that one. It's just always has been a fan favorite. But
and the two printings, the Japanese one in a special book. That's a different art. The one that you really like.
Which one is that?
The All-Star, I guess you can say, of the Birthday Pikachu.
Oh yeah, that came in like a not a wake or not a waki.
Yeah.
And then you want to pronounce it.
It was in like some sort of coloring book or something. I forget the actual name. I'd have to look that up real fast. But
it was like what I was talking about earlier. It was kind of like a little comic book type thing. Like when I said that, that's what I was thinking of actually. But yeah, which section should we talk about next? I guess
we can do the best of game cards.
Yeah, we can go ahead and hop in there. I never really followed these cards. I've always knew about them. I never really seen them as something special, but I guess WOTC was trying to make them special as like a send-off.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can go ahead and take over this one.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it was the end of an era, parting gift, more or less, that WOTC had. WOTC knew they were losing their licensing, and they're basically doing a one last hurrah during the tournaments. There's a few variations of these best of game cards. Some of them are reverse hollow, some of them aren't. There's obviously one that has a winner stamp on it. The Ivysaur that I bought, that I mentioned, is one of those cards. And it's got unique art from the e-reader era. What we pretty much consider some of the best art in the entire TCG. And
I think that was the only time Dark Venusaur was printed, too. Because Dark Venusaur was printed in, like, the Pokemon Web series in Japan. And we never really saw Dark Venusaur, but it was in that best of game set. So it was kind of a weird set to put it in, but that was just their kind of homage to Dark Venusaur.
Here's a little tidbit on these cards I never knew about. So all these cards had an air. The energy symbols in place by the attack. So the one kind of towards the bottom left, are slightly misplaced and put a little bit more to the left than usual. And I would have to see some of the other cards to get a full understanding of that. But Anyways, in an interview with Ike Lawlia in 2022, it was revealed the errors on these cards and cards on other sets really at the same time were done intentionally due to Wizards of the Coast at the time Vice President Vince Calori finding out their license to print Pokemon TCG cards was not going to be renewed. I did not know
So we
that.
just
That
tweaked
makes
them a little bit. Just here you
as
go.
as an FU, because apparently my guess is now. I imagine the on the Japanese side, the people who oversaw that, everything had to be perfect. I'm sure, and I imagine this Kalori guy was well aware of that, and he knew that they would see that, so he must have intentionally said, "Okay, well, you're not going to renew it. Let me do a little FU, and we're going to make some errors in all these cards." I did not know
what
that.
part
Wow.
was it? The energy of the attacks?
So yeah, this was just discovered in 2022. So this is pretty recent information. That's why I didn't know about it.
Yeah,
So
I've never heard about
essentially,
that either, actually.
yeah. So yeah, this is on Bulbapedia. It says energy symbols in place by the attacks. So like Fury Strikes, I believe it's those grass energy symbols. I would have to see another card from that era. I don't have a whole lot from that era. I only have like the Mewtwo.
Yeah, it's
Oh, I see it.
Which one are you looking at?
I'm looking at Mewtwo, the Hollow from what is that? Expedition.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's down and lower to the left. I mean, it's so subtle. You wouldn't know about it unless you're
read
trying
that.
to look at it. Yeah. Because you would be thinking that's just the design, but that was an intention apparently. Wow.
Huh. Yeah, definitely
cool.
Interesting.
Yeah. So these were now continue from that. that was a pretty cool little information. I would also like to know what else potentially. This leads me to think maybe they printed cards. Since he has that attitude, I wonder if they printed some cards on some of the sets that weren't released that were planned. Wonder if those cards are a thing.
Don't know.
Interesting.
Plot thickens.
Yeah. But anyways, these cards were handed out towards like league tournaments, and that's how you acquire them. They did go up around 2021 a little bit. As far as their exact price, none of them are crazy expensive even, and I think the Rockets Mewtwo is one of the more expensive ones. That I think was like 110, 120. The winter one, I think that might be the most expensive one. Yeah, $40 TCG player. I know Yeti had a Rocket Mewtwo that was like 120, so I think that's near is the winner. The reverse Rocket Mewtwo winner, I think, is one of the more expensive ones. Even like the reverse hollow or Hitmonchan isn't that crazy. I think they're like $50.
Huh.
But they did go up. I remember, so we had a friend that was buying these, and he kind of told me the price he was buying them at. It was like $10 to $15. Yeah, a 9, for example. A 9 best of game Hitmonchan is only $42. A Dark Venusaur winner is only $74. So a lot of reason why that is because a lot of people don't know about these cards. Like they actually have come down. They went up, then they came down a little bit. Like a Rocket Scizor, $84. So these are actually pretty affordable in 10s, honestly. Very comparable to some cards today, like some VMAXs and 10s and all that.
Yeah.
But the most special thing about it was basically a last hurrah from WOTC. That's why it's so notable. It's some of the last cards made closing chapter to one of the most integral, important eras in the Pokemon TCG. And that's why it's so noticeable, because it really was it's a bridge, if you will, between WOTC and the next generation and next era.
For sure. Yeah, it's really cool to see. It was like kind of their send off, and they had the for sure the WOTC hollow, and as reverse hollows, they definitely caught attention. So yeah, it was pretty cool to see there. But yeah, overall, they're not really collected too much. There's not that many, and even though they're pretty popular with the, trading card game playability, they were never really like super popular cards,
which is
as
weird
far as
because
anything else.
I understand they're not going to be like crazy expensive. I get that because of the pure scarcity or like the amount of numbers involved, but they're still a WOTC card, and they're one of the few cards from the era that had that reverse hollow that we really don't see anymore nowadays. That Galaxy, and yeah, they're supposedly bringing some of the Galaxy foil back, but if I'm not mistaken, it's not so much that reverse foil, like something you kind of like unique.
Yeah.
But you think it'd be more sought after because of that, but they really aren't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're unique, but yeah, it's just I think these were like kind of common though too. Like I remember having some of these and they weren't like super desirable even then, but it was just kind of weird. It was one of those things, they were desirable, but they weren't like super crazy, but they were cool looking, but they weren't like super popular Pokemon either. So it's just kind of a weird thing. But yeah, who knows? We'll might see more of these take off in the future or something. But
Yeah.
yeah. What's the other categories we have? Like the
Southern
W
Islands
stamps. Or yeah, let's do Southern
we
Islands. Those were kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, they it's pretty interesting. Like the Southern Islands, they were kind of their own little standalone set there as well. They it was basically, how many cards was that?
Was it 18?
Yeah, something like that. There was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There was 18, yeah. It was like a 9x9 thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely some cool cards for sure.
Mew card being obviously the most desired from the set.
Yeah.
One of the few early Lapras art cards too is in there.
Yep, Lapras was chilling. The thing that was really popular with this set too was that it made one continuous artwork. So that was always one of the highlights of the set. It was really unique art style. But they all came in like a little folder, so you got like in Japan, I think it's broken up where you get like 3 and 3. But it was kind of cool to see, all in a set or all in a binder together. But yeah, overall, these are just kind of nostalgic. They're not really insanely collectible per se, but they're definitely something. But other than that, yeah, that's really about it.
It was one of the cards where it's like they're identical between Japan and England, or not England, Japan and the English versions were basically identical, more or less, with how they debuted and all of that. You can still get, last I looked, it was like 300-400 for the whole binder. Something like that. I think they've stayed pretty steady.
They've always been pretty, chill on the price aspect of things. But yeah,
500, so they have gone up a little bit.
I like the postcards too. Like they had postcards made of them, and they show each of the full artwork of like all the cards together. So it's really cool to see that.
Yeah, this one with the binder's 400. But yeah, you can. I mean, it's about 450 maybe. Yeah, so it hasn't gone up too much. I mean, it's been pretty steady. There were a lot of these made. But if you're collecting WOTC, like it's a must. I only have the Mew, I think, from this set, but that's just because I just wanted to get the Mew. I found one that was near mint at Collecticon that we had, and I went ahead and got it. So,
yep.
That's a guy I sold my sealed pack, the one that people were saying, like a guy said, I can't tell if it's real or not. It might be resealed. And the guy they've gone. I think the base of packs, it was a Charizard pack, but I mean it's basically like I got like $300 and like that Mew card, so I basically got my money back.
Yeah.
Or it was like 270 and that Mew. I don't know. It was like 330 or something. Like, and he was going to sell for like 420. So yeah,
That's not too bad. Yeah, these have pretty
no,
much
not at
always
all.
been affordable. They definitely took up, you know, of course, and the hype, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, these were
Some of the like if you're trying to get a great set like for WOTC nostalgia, I mean this is a fantastic item to get. It really is. It's got this nice like obviously it's on like Southern Island. It's got this vacation like this sunny like it's a great beautiful day feel. Like all the like you have like a rainbow in the back of Mew like kind of like sunshine and you see a bit of the Mew and the Pidgeot like yeah it's just the way it has this very nice feel to it.
yeah. Yeah, and that released alongside the second movie in
Hmm.
Japan, and you got like you would get either the Rainbow or Tropical Island 9 card set, and yeah, it was just really cool, really unique. Probably one of the very first like super unique odd products they have done, and that's why people loved it so much. Um, they also were released in like 3 card box sets, so 6 of those total to make the 18 cards. Then you had like, because each one is broken up into like 3 cards, so 3 cards make a little section of the island. But yeah, it was really cool. The English version came as like a little folder with all of them in there. You got 3 booster packs in there as well, and yeah, all the artwork was retained, which was kind of pretty rare for back then.
Hmm.
Um, one of the little trivia things on Bulbapedia, it said, the Japanese versions of the cards had the old base through rocket design. They were a
Hmm.
lot more simple. And then when they came over to English, they had the Neo series design, a little more decorated, a lot more going on. And you can definitely see that between the two. You see cards like that, like you see the Southern Islands Japanese release, and just something about them looks a little more simple. You could put it, but that's what it is. It's a totally different card design, and totally different um, era essentially of card design. So they had the Neo design, and it was because of this, like the Gen 2 Pokemon featured in the set are the only ones of their generation to have the old school like base set through rocket design. So it's pretty cool. And Slowking in the set specifically, apparently, is the only Gen 1 evolved Pokemon to have had a square evolution box, because all the ones later retained the circular. So, pretty cool little tidbit there.
Hmm. Plan on getting that also at the end of the year.
Yeah. But yeah, pretty
And
cool
then
there. The only other things that I really wanted to mention, which we could do real quick, there was some other odds and ends that are a little more research intensive that people might not know about. But there were 5 card e-reader sample packs given out at some press conferences and Nintendo Space World. There are also, for a long time, which were considered rumors, but they were in fact real, and some were actually opened last year at Dallas Collecticon or Denver, one of those two. I think it was Denver actually. Um, it they had these e-reader sample cards that they were using to test things out with in legendary collection packs. So some of those were actually opened, and you could even get like a Charizard and Blastoise Alakazam in there. Those were kind of some of the heavier hitters. But they actually have this sample, like the word sample, printed on the card itself. So that's pretty cool. The only other things I was going to touch on were the W stamped promo cards, which
Which are
actually had their
pre-release,
little
basically.
gold W. Yeah, which you mentioned those. They were just kind of a little special stamp. I don't know why they went with that, but it was just kind of the Wizards of the Coast promo type thing that they just decided was pretty cool to do. And it is a cool little stamp. But yeah, a couple of them were given out in a Duelist magazine, Top Deck magazine, Hong Kong Pokemon League, and then some craft giveaway in Australia was where you get the Dark Charmeleon. So that one's kind of one of the little more rare ones, I guess.
Probably more expensive, I bet. Let's see.
Yeah.
Dark Charmeleon.
I think it is, but there's still like a ton of them because I think you pretty much got these in craft boxes. So it's like there was plenty of them, I think. But yeah, kind of interesting though. But
looks like a 10 sold for $500. So yeah, I mean near mints you're looking at probably about 100. So yeah.
Yeah. So there's still stuff out there. We could touch on air cards, but I figure we could do like
its own thing with that.
Yeah, maybe break up their own thing there too, because there's a lot of airs in the early sets.
Yeah, like the War Turtle, and Yeah. Apparently now every single best of game one is a air card, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of like that whole full picks where they're like all like the HP air.
Yeah.
But
there were some sets planned by Wizards of the Coast that were never made at all. There were, rumors to be a Legendary Collection 2, which could have featured, Neo cards. That would have been really sick. Imagine if there was a reverse holo, like Legendary Collection reverse holo style of Umbreon from Neo. That would be insane.
Well, I don't know. Do you know the history of why they lost the license? Was it just because Pokemon wanted to do its own thing because they got big enough, or was there more to it?
I think it was mostly that. So yeah, I think they were thinking about it for quite some time. Like it was kind of writing on the wall. Plus, obviously it was essentially, they were trying to operate with each other all the way across the world as well. But yeah, I think in general, Pokemon just got bigger, and Wizard of the Coast was making Magic the Gathering, which is somewhat, not directly, but somewhat a competitor to Pokemon. And there were many people who went through Wizards of the Coast for, card games. They just essentially could lease out their stuff. But yeah, it's just kind of fizzled out and became a thing. There's some archives back there of like why and the ins and outs of it, but
apparently they were in one of the sets that they were going to release. They were going to potentially feature some of the vending series cards, but it seems like if you look at the theme for the proposed sets that they're going to release, they're like reprint. Like it's heavily Gen 1 reprint base or base set based, and you can kind of see why. Like, I think that it sounds like it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B with Nintendo. Like, they didn't like what Wizards of the Coast was trying to do with some of their product. I think it's like we're big enough to do it, but also we don't like how they're doing it. Because they were really banking on base set, which is what we see Pokemon do now.
Yeah. There's also like an internet archive of things too that I've seen one time where they've archived like conversations and emails, and there was one that was like in the early 2000s, and essentially Wizards of the Coast like put in their bid to Pokemon to make the EX era sets. So they put in a bid to manufacture and distribute Ruby and Sapphire, but they were not accepted. So whatever reason it was, WOTC wanted to continue.
Obviously, for financially, it makes sense because although it's a slower era, they were still making money doing it.
Yeah, but Yeah, Pokemon took it into their own hands. I'm sure things got rocky there when popularity of Pokemon nosedived, but in the end, it was the right choice. So, right choice for everybody. It made Pokemon more collectible than ever because, WotC cards are kind of locked away in this imaginary vault now.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah, so yeah, basically they wanted to bring more of the vending series sets. There were several sets where they tried to do it. So that is interesting. Eventually, if given the means, they would have reprinted the English versions of these vending series cards, which also have some of the most unique and best art in the entire TCG. Like if you would say the top 5 sets, the vending series, whether you include them as individual or as one cohesive set, which is kind of how I see them. Even though it's 1, 2, 3, I kind of group them all into one. They, that those cards, most of those cards have never been printed with an English variant.
yeah, or even if like the relationship was maintained, there was talks of that cross trainer set that I think you mentioned before we started. I mean that could have been VS series. Who knows? Like, we know the VS series were kind of made and and were intentionally set out there to be tested at the Tropical Mega Battle. And, that whole situation where, the English VS cards are stupid rare and like trophy level. But, yeah, who knows? They could have had time to adjust. Rumor has it they were too overpowered and they weren't going to release them in English. But, if the WotC relationship continued, maybe that could have happened at some point. Who knows?
Yeah.
All the possibilities could have been out there for sure. But this is where we're at now, though.
And since this is kind of great to, unless you have anything else, this is kind of great to go straight into the questions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good to go.
So, we're kind of talking about the original era that obviously, period, I should say, that encompasses multiple eras with the WotC. Now, we kind of hinted at that before, but are we seeing a noticeable burnout of modern sets right now? That's my question, or my first question. I got two potentially, so.
It's kind of like I said in the beginning, too. I think we're getting there. Yeah, you aren't seeing the prices go like as crazy. I mean, I haven't been, like I said, with my burnout in general, I haven't been consuming too much Pokemon content, just in general. But yeah, I think it's heading there. It's definitely have seen a shift. The pricing market, though, it seems like it has leveled off and we're pretty much at the bottom. Some things, as we've mentioned, have been creeping up. But there was the people I do watch, like, I watch Alpha Investments just to kind of keep my eye on other TCGs because I'm not really in any other TCGs, but he obviously is. He kind of keeps his ear open to all things because that's his business. And I guess Flesh and Blood is doing incredibly well. Like they're reaching new highs of their product, even post-hype prices. Magic is still struggling quite a bit. But, the writing is kind of on the wall for them. Something drastic has to change there because they suck. But it's hard to tell if something like that, Pokemon has came down obviously, but not to the extent of other things. But it's like, is this excitement towards Flesh and Blood because of the Magic situation? Even if it is, it's showing that people are still willing to spend money on TCGs. Is this Pokemon hype just temporary? Will it flare back up with 151? I think so, to some extent. But still lots of questions.
Sorry, I'm curious because we talked about like burnout, and I just want to interject real fast and say, so I'm going through the price of Evolving Skies booster box. It has taken a nosedive in the last couple of weeks. So we talked about how it hit 450. Well, the market has reacted to that price point hard.
What's it at now?
So let's see. The most recent one sold for. There's some that have been sold for like like 350. One under 300, but it was coming from China. I wonder if that had anything to do with it. But it's not a Chinese one, but it is like English. I wonder if that reason why it's so low. Some bigs are going high, but like it reacted. Like it's like probably 350 overall, probably now. So there has been definitely a response in the market. So it hit 450. It's not going that. The market responded. So we know it's not. I would think to see it go down. I think somebody did buy one at a large amount of price. But if you see like the price trend, I mean, it went down hard. Like, and this is why it's kind of scary why it's going up and down. But like 440, March 13th, April 3rd, 290 they were selling for. Now there has been an uptick. Now this is where you gotta be careful when it comes to the eBay's market value, because sometimes like a double listing or like there'll be two boxes and it will be featured into their market value. That's why it's that high. Because if you look at, or it will include like this case of Evolving Skies booster box, for example. That's increasing the market because the way of in their coding, how they read it, the way it's like written, it's going to be included. That's why it says up. But like it's about 340, I would say, is kind of where we're looking at here. So it's gone down hard, and I was laughing because I seen the listing. Pokemon Sword and Shield, Evolving Skies booster box sealed case, first print.
First print, oh my god.
First print on my case. It's so rare, bro. Because it has the don't sell by this date, right? Isn't that why they're saying first print?
Yeah, I think that's the distinguishing factor. It's stupid.
But then once you open it, it's no longer, you can no longer tell that distinction. So okay.
Yeah.
What it is a great.
People are literally just collecting the cardboard box and buying a premium for that, which, yeah, that's another story. but
so that's kind of a net hair story with like all these people that have this crap sealed, and if they do have even a small print run of booster boxes, bro, this is going down to 220. these boxes are. But anyways. Going back to the burnout of modern sets, I think it's more that, so there's like some of the Pokemon we've seen some Paradox Pokemon, obviously like Great Tusk, and we see great art so far, but there's been a lot of new Pokemon being printed, and I think that's one reason why we don't have as much interest in the hobby. It's because it's newer gen Pokemon, especially a lot of Gen 9 Pokemon, and I think that's one reason why there's kind of a little bit of a lull right now in the hobby is for that reason. It seems like is just because it makes sense. Like they're trying to get us introduced to new Pokemon. Their type, their species, everything within the TCG world. And I think that's one reason why a lot of people are kind of meh towards it, because while we are all kind of tired of, Gen 1, it does sell, but even Gen 2 or 3, like if you look at a lot of the premier cards to go after with these sets, I mean, it's almost all, I mean, yeah, there's a Riolu that's kind of cool, and like Scarlet Violet, but a lot of these are like newer Pokemon for the most part.
Yeah.
So I think the Gen 151 is going to be a thing that's going to recreate major hype within the hobby.
Yeah, and I think that's what people like to open. I mean, Celebrations was fun, of course, but it's like, yeah, we just need some of that too. So it's like seeing Evolving Skies do what it does. I mean, it's mostly because of the evolutions. So
mainly the Umbreon, yeah.
Yeah, is the hype really only just nostalgia driven by like Gen 1 and 2? Or what, are we seeing a little lackluster of these Scarlet Violet sets because there's not much nostalgia in them? We'll see. They're still doing well no matter what, and the cards look great. So
I haven't been into a Walmart in a while, but I'm curious to see how the shelves are. 'Cause I haven't had any desire to buy packs or even see.
yeah, I haven't been much anywhere really, but
But it's even we say that, and it looks like the last sold All Star VMAX Umbreon, or like there's two now that have sold for over $1,000. So
yeah,
around $1,000, or it might even. Uh, no, I was curious to see if it was the same card, and they were just try to uh, gauge the market. I mean, yeah, there's several around 1,000. So I mean, I don't think that's right. I think they should be around 700-800 in a 10. But the desire is there. Like, I mean, who knows where it'll end up being?
yeah, yeah. It's just weird to see in general, but it's gonna
Did you
get
have a
weird.
question?
We'll see.
I want to say,
I did see that Evolving Skies. I was looking at that graph, and it is pretty flat there.
yeah, and I think the reason why it's gone back up is because there's a few listings, like I told you. Like, when I was looking at the Mario Pikachu, it would like it pulled a listing that had both the Mario and Luigi in it, and it fluctuated with the market value price because of it. Or it was like a PSA 10 Mario Pikachu that sold, and it was included. Like it's so like you kind of have to look with the eBay market price because how they use it in their code is the listing names, like in keywords, is what they're using to pull it from. So you
Yeah.
have to be careful. But the TCG player is probably more accurate, and because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I guess we can ready to move on to my question.
Yeah, I'm ready.
So for my question, I had if WotC still did it, and Legendary Collection 2 did become a thing, like what would that set look like, or what would you hope it would have looked like?
Well, I imagine the main ones would be Umbreon, Ho-Oh, and Lugia, just off the top of my head. But there's also like the Neo cards or the Shining cards as well. Because Secret Rares, yeah, there was one in Team Rocket with the Raichu, but overall Secret Rares were unique to the Neo sets, more or less, with how they created them and start having like Shinings, like a special tier. Um, and it'd be interesting to see if they would introduce all of the Shinings because of that.
Yeah.
Like imagine all the Shinings with like the crystal around it.
Yeah, it's like I'm trying to think of like, the reason for Legendary Collection 1 was essentially, playability again, but they also changed it up with the reverse hollows. But I don't know, it's just weird. Like, would they just do a Neo set? Like, if it was based more on playability again, I think it would be pretty much Legendary Collection 1, just with Neo as well. But it's hard to say. It'd be weird.
I figured they would have done the starters, the dogs or the beasts or whatever, and like the Umbreon, Lugia, and a few others to round out like the reverse hollow, the ones with like the crystal hollows is kind of what I figure, and then some shinings as well.
Yeah.
Like those would probably be like 18 reverse hollows, and they'll somehow do the 18 with the shinings, the starters, the dogs, and like the Umbreon. They would do some, and then they would have some sort of common or like really, really well liked common or rare cards as well to round out like everything. Like they had like a Growlithe, for example. Like they did have the Dark Raichu.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird, like what it could end up or what it could be. But I don't know of anything else. Like if WotC continued on and did like the Jamboree set or the cross training set, like I really don't know like what that would become.
Yeah. It sounds like based on the description of it, it wouldn't. I don't know, I think it would have diluted the quality of some of the sets, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
because it sounds like there's a lot more reprints, and there. If you make it to where 70% of the cards are reprint, I mean it's not as fun.
Yeah. Yep, it's weird. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had though. Just kind of a
Hmm.
simple question there.
Yeah.
If you got anything else to say though, I think that'll pretty much wrap it up.
I think that's going to be it for me. I figure I did have two questions, but I'd rather save my other question for potentially um, the next episodes,
Okay.
which is kind of up in the air about what we'll be doing it on.
Yeah, there is a lot of Lorcana news for sure.
Hmm. There has
So
been,
we'll see about that. And
yeah.
what we'll do there. So there is a ton of Lorcana news and pretty much gameplay as well.
Hmm.
So we'll be
They're doing
looking
a
at that.
debut. Yeah, they're doing a exhibition, I think, at a gaming expo here next or this weekend actually.
Yeah.
I forget. I forget. It's like a not Gen Con, but it's something else, some other expo that they're going to have a demonstration at, and we'll get a lot of it. Like there's been rules that have leaked. Lorcana website now has a breakdown of everything, and I looked at it a little bit, but I haven't had time to give it my full attention for the gameplay. There's now been like what of the 200 or whatever cards they're going to be in the set. Like it's going to be a big set, the first one, and it has to be because you got to have enough cards to play with. Um, but it's like we now have like a third of the cards now
Mm-hmm.
revealed.
Yeah, quite a few, and yeah, pretty much reading those gameplay rules. I really have a good grasp of it because I've played Magic quite a bit, so I can we'll talk about all those rules and all that in the future.
Yeah, I've never really played too much. The only TCG I've really played a lot was Yu-Gi-Oh. That was the one I had a big interest, and I actually like made a deck and everything, and with maybe the intention of going to a place to play, but I never did. It was what it was. But that
Yeah.
was uh that was the only one I really played, and the game style is obviously a lot different than Magic. So,
Yep.
and then so for me, it's going to be a learning curve because I'm not used to any of this. So,
Yeah, we'll have to play Magic or something before. There's a lot of guys like I saw last night someone had made a tabletop simulator game where they have the images of the cards so you can play games on there. So there's options, but yeah, I mean, and you should get together and play some Magic beforehand because if you just
or just
know how
print.
Magic works, like you'll totally get Lorcana for sure pretty quickly.
Yeah, and
But
we're not 100% sure if we're going to have that, but like Nathan and I have kind of said, or I've been saying, like, let's wait till we have the rules, until we know more about the game before we make an episode. And we're kind of at that point. So I think unless something kind of else pops up that is like, oh, we got to do this, like within the Pokemon hobby, I think that's kind of where we're thinking for the next episode. So,
yeah, I uh I was even contemplating like should I just like make my YouTube name generic and be like in P collects and then just start making Lorcana videos and talking about that because like I was so burnt out on Pokemon. It's like
yeah, I mean,
I kind of want to
that's
talk
kind
about that, but
that's kind of why like I made PBJ collectibles because
yeah,
I collect, yeah, I collect Pokemon, but I also collect comics. But I also collect some Dragon Ball Z stuff. I collect some coins, but I'm not going to show off my coins to like on that page. But like mainly like the comic. Oh yeah, and games too. Like those were the ones I was like, So I feel like PBJ collectibles is more like with what I'm trying to do. But because I don't have a pure Pokemon name, I think that sometimes that slows like my progress within the hobby with like my following. But I don't really give a rat's ass about how many people follow me or don't follow me. I
yeah,
don't try to grow it. I don't need validation from people I'll never meet.
hmm,
So it's like, do I want people to like listen to kind of like what I say? Yeah, but like I'm not desperate for this attention and to be validated, and neither are you. We just kind of do this. But yeah.
Yeah, I just like the aesthetic thing. Like, I don't want people thinking, oh, it's just about Pokemon if I start making videos about Lorcana too, but maybe I'll just do whatever.
You could be like all those people that create a podcast without knowing a damn thing about Lorcana. Gotta be first. Yeah. You gotta be first.
Yeah,
I get the mentality. I do. I mean, good for you if it's decent content. I haven't paid attention to it mainly because this is the first really episode where you can actually, like, this month is the first month where you can, like, okay, we got a lot of stuff to talk about this month, Yeah. Because out of that, it was just like, oh, they revealed a new episode, or they revealed a new card this week. What do you think this means? It's like, dude, this is no different than watching people talk about football and the football off season. Yet somehow ESPN and places like that are able to talk about it 24/7.
Yeah, just talking about the same stuff over and over.
What did so and so do on? What do you think of his hairstyle? LeBron James did what? It's like, oh my god.
All right. Well, I guess we'll leave you with that, y'all, and yeah, we'll let you know. Might be Lorcana next time. Might be something else, but
for sure.
We'll see you in the next one.
Can't wait till next time. Peace.